Welcome back to the Village Build series. In this series, so far, I've already built 4 themed houses for the village. In today's video, we will be building number 5, the Lumberjack. Alright, so plan and land. First things first, we need to prepare the land to get ready for the plan. For this project, it's pretty simple. I just needed to dig into the side of the hill with my pickaxe and of course flatten some ground for the blueprint. Alright, so for the basic blueprint, I like to decide 3 things. First of all, the direction of the house. Second of all, the shape of the house. And third, what will be the outside features on the house. Alright, so we're going to take a quick break from the village area. I've taken you over here to my filming and testing area, and I'm going to show you guys how I made the blueprint. Now this blueprint is actually just 6 cubes. Let me explain. This cube right here is the template for the build. It is 6 meters by 6 meters by 4 meters tall, and all I had to do in this entire thing is decide how big I wanted this cube. You can make this cube any size, and once you do that, all you have to do is build them all next to each other. Now the only thing you need to know about this building method is that when you place these cubes next to each other, you'll have 2 stone pillars on the inside and 1 on the outside. To fix this, you want to make sure that wherever you have 2 cubes next to each other, you actually overlap them by 1 meter. So even though the cubes are 6 meters long, when you put 2 next to each other, you actually get an 11 meter long distance because you're losing 1 meter by overlapping them in the middle. But it's going to keep your design from looking like this. It's going to keep it looking like this. If you want to see the actual example in the real blueprint, you can see that on the center areas, we've got this method where our cubes are overlapping. But out here on the edges, we don't have to deal with that. This method is really awesome because it's infinitely expandable, but there is actually another plus side to it as well. So we already know that we can expand this design essentially infinitely by adding more cubes correctly, but also you can make slight modifications to the cubes themselves to kind of add to a build. You can see for this build that we're doing here today, I did exactly that. I took the top floors and I expanded them outwards over the bottom floors to get a Tudor style medieval type of architectural influence. The final part of the blueprint, I decided to add this chimney right here from the gardener's house onto the lumberjack's house. The nice thing about this chimney is that it is large enough at the base to fit in a full stone hearth. The base of the chimney is 4 by 6 meters, the skinnier section at the top is 3 by 4 meters, the entire height of the chimney is 14 meters. Alright, so now it's time to get started with the easy stuff first. So we're going to make a few additions to the frame itself in just a moment. But first things first, we're going to do the easiest thing of all, and that is filling in the chimney. You can see I'm bricklaying the stones here to get a nice kind of alternating pattern going all the way up. And then also you're going to see here that it does not actually support itself at the top, but it's actually a really easy fix for this chimney. All you need to do is take iron poles and run them up the inside corner of the wider base at the bottom. You don't actually have to go all the way up. You just have to go to the top of the wide base at the bottom, and that is enough. Alright, so now we're going to finish up the chimney with some final details. First of all, some small cage pieces in the top vent for the smoke. And then of course we're going to have the 26-degree angle roof pieces connecting up our 1 meter tall roof frame. You can see I'm free placing some 26-degree angle beams on the ends. And now we're going to add some detailing to the stone itself. To do this, I decided to add vertical lines 1 meter from the corners on all sides. So you can see I did that on the bottom, and then I went ahead and I started doing that up top. And then of course I decided to also add the same type of lines but going horizontally. Alright, then I finished up the structure of the chimney by filling in the final stone wall and by adding in some nice stone arches down on the bottom. Alright, now we're going to move on to some additions onto the frame of the house. First of all, you want to go ahead and trace all of your stone pillars out with nice 2 meter regular wooden poles on, of course, all 4 sides. Next, after that, I went ahead and I started getting rid of these roof peaks. Remember, these peaks were only here to show you guys which way the roofs would be going. And you can see what I'm doing now is I'm building a 1 meter frame onto the walls wherever I know that the roof will be. Alright, so now I've added a 1 meter frame on all of the edges of the roof, but now what I need to do is something a little bit tricky. You can see I'm actually building out away from the wall here on this side, and that's because I want to have a deck sticking out on the second floor, and that deck needs to be roofed. So I took the roof and I actually extended it out over the building on this side. Alright, now let's get started building on the bottom floor, the workshop. You can see first things first, I decided to place stones on the bottom and on the top of where the walls will be, and I left these nice openings, and these openings are here because this is the workshop, like I said, so we want to keep it nice and open. You can see even on the ends of the house we're leaving it even more open, but that's actually just because, you know, we need a way to get in and out of the house. So we're gonna have three entrances slash exits. This one leads out to the bridge, of course, towards the ocean. The first one is the front door coming into the house, and this right here is the back door leading to the lumberyard. Alright, now I'm going to finish up the stonework on the walls of the workshop by adding in some nice stone arches on the tops of the windows. Alright, so now we're going to do some detailing on the outside walls. You can see I'm using 1 meter beams here going all the way across, except for where the doorway is, of course. And then we're going to come back through and add 1 meter poles, doing the same thing going all the way across, except for the doorway. And then what we're going to do is finish up this little detailing section with a nice little peek over the windows. I wanted this to look like a real window, and real windows sometimes have little roof coverings, so that's what I wanted to get there. Now you can see I'm moving to the inside of the house where I am framing out the 1 by 1 by 1 meter stone cubes. And then after that, I'm going around and placing beams all the way around the base of the foundation. And then once I finished that, I decided to also add beams up at where the first floor meets the second floor. Then I decided to add the same kind of window peak design that I used on the outside of the wall on the inside over each of the doorways. I didn't do it on each of these sections, on each of the walls. I just did it on the doorways because I wanted the rest of the walls to have that top section clear for decorations for the inside of the workshop. And then to finish up the bottom floor, I decided to add on a stone floor for the workshop. I felt like a stone floor made sense here. And then I decided to finish filling in the trim separating the first floor from the second floor. For some reason, I just didn't fill this all the way in. I'm not really sure why I did that, but here you go. Here's me filling it all the way in. Alright, so now we're moving on to the top floor. This is another spot where I can show you guys how awesome the cube system is. Up here at the top floor, we essentially have 7 identical walls that need to be filled in. So really, all we have to do is design one wall with a window that we like, and you can copy it to all 7 places. It's very quick and easy, but of course, for the video, I decided we'd do a little more than just one window design. So we will be using one window on 4 of these spots, but the other 3 spots, they will have something else. 2 of them are the Tudor style sides, so they're going to have some sort of Tudor style element, and the third is going to be where our second floor deck sticks out from the house. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys how to do the basic window design. This design is going to be used to fill in 4 of the 7 holes on the second floor. Now for this design, I want to place my window wall directly in the middle of all of this stone, so we can get a really cool like layered wall feature. But you can see if I try to place a 2-meter beam here, there is no snapping point in the middle of the wall. So what we have to do is create a snapping point. You can see I've pulled out wooden doors. You might know this, you might not. Some people do, some people don't. Wooden doors actually can give you multiple snapping points. So you can see here I'm kind of showing you on both of these beams, we've got 3 snapping points to choose from. Right here you can see I'm pushing all the way to the inside of this stone area, and that's going to give me the snapping point that I want. And now you can see I actually do have snapping points for wooden beams down in the stone wall. Neither of them are the greatest, neither of them are perfectly centered, but one of them is kind of more in the middle than the other. You want to just choose that one, the one that's not touching any of the beams on the outside. You can see it's got space in between each of the beams on the outside. And then what we can do from there is build in our middle layer. You want to frame out a spot for a window that is 2 by 2 meters. You can see I'm just using the 1 by 1 wall pieces and then the 1 by 2 wall pieces, and then placing the large cage wall piece in the center. And then of course you want to frame out that cage wall window with some 2-meter poles and beams. Alright, so that is the middle layer of the wall done. This is when I like to go around to the front and do the front layer. For me, I like to get started with a nice 1 by 1 meter little fence going across the front. So we use 1 meter poles and 1 meter beams. And then I decided to go up to the top and add some nice peaks over the top of the window. You can see I did have to place a temporary 1 meter tall beam here so that I actually did have a snapping point. And then I went all the way across to place my beam across, and I got rid of the middle ones. And the middle ones, the reason I'm getting rid of them is so that I can actually replace that with a 2-meter beam and just get rid of one of these seams here in the middle. Now you can see on the top I'm using 26-degree angle walls, and then I'm going to fill in the middle area with 2-meter beams. Now if you look down at the bottom wall, you can see how well these match up. We've got the 1 by 1 meter fences on the bottom, and then we've got the 26-degree angle arches on the top of our sections. That was very important here, that the top floor did match the bottom floor. Alright, that is the middle layer of the window done and the front layer of the window done. Now we can come inside and do the inside layer. Now you can see here I decided to go with a full wooden baseboard for the bottom of the window. Then I added 2-meter poles sticking straight up, and then some 1-meter beams going across the top. You can see I just showed you, this is where on the outside I used 26-degree angle walls, but instead of that, we're actually using the 1 by 1 meter fence on the top. So you can see the bottom is the more filled in side on the inside, and the top is the more open side on the inside. Kind of a little more suited for an interior space. Alright, I've gone ahead and copied the basic window design onto the 4 spots where it goes. We still have 3 spots left. What we're going to do now is these 2 right here, which is where we have the Tudor style elements. Alright, so now it's time to do the Tudor style walls. So for these walls, first things first, I wanted to bring the stone out into the new frames. So I added stone pillars and stone bricks. You can see I also went ahead and I traced out these stone pillars with 2-meter tall wooden poles, because that's what we did for all the rest of the poles. So I needed to go ahead and match that up with the rest of the design. And then of course I went across with 1 by 1 meter little squares going across, because that's what I did for all the rest of the walls, first floor and second floor so far. And then right here you can see we're doing a very similar thing to what we did with the basic window design, where I come inside of the house and I use a large cage wall piece, and then I kind of frame that out. And now we've got our basic wall, our center wall kind of into the build. Now we can work on the wall that sticks out from this wall. Alright, so now we're going to free place a 2-meter pole right here onto the frame. On top of that, we'll be placing a 1-meter pole, and then you want to come across the frame and go right back down. And now what we're doing here is we're really just tracing the frame for what it already is, but what we're doing is we're bringing it outwards a little bit. So we're going to add some shadows, add some depth to the build, and then you can see here what I'm going to be doing is finishing up this framing and then adding the roof peak. The peak here I think is essential to make sure that this really looks like a window. Next we're adding a nice 26-degree angle X onto there, and then what we're going to do is free place a kind of roof trimming layer here to add even another element that is sticking out from the wall. And you know, I think that's really important here because this is the Tudor style element to the second floor. So as much as I can make it stick out from the wall without looking ridiculous, I'm definitely gonna want to do that. Now you can see I'm looking at my design. I like the design, so the next thing I need to do is to go to the other Tudor style element on the second floor and copy this over. Alright, so once I finished copying that over, that meant that I was done with 6 out of the 7 second floor areas that needed to be filled in. So now it's time to start the seventh, which is the second floor deck, which will be sticking out right here. Alright, so now I can show you guys how I did the wall for the deck area. So first things first, we're using the snapping point method, which we used before on the basic window wall. So bring out the wooden door and choose the snapping point all the way inside the stone wall. Then bring out your 2-meter beam, choose the snapping point which is not touching either of the beams that are already there. Then go ahead and start placing your walls. Now, before when we did this, we left room in the middle of the wall for a large cage wall piece. But now we're going to be leaving room for a door. Speaking of that door, you can see here that I am now having to choose between snapping points once again. For the door, I chose to use the most inside snapping point so that from the outside, we've got more shadows. Then after that, you can see I brought out the 1x1 meter wall and I decided to frame out that wall. And this is going to add a little bit of wood paneling down to the bottom of the wall. Now we're going to go up the wall with 2-meter poles, and then we're going to add some wood paneling up here at the top, but this is the more open wood paneling with the 1-meter beams and poles. You can also see that what I'm doing here is really just matching the inside wall theme over here on this new deck wall section. Now over the door, instead of putting a beam which would block you from being able to use the door, I decided to put a 26-degree angle X so that you can actually still make it in and out of the door. Now first things first, you can see I added on some 2-meter poles to frame out the door here on the outside, and then I went ahead and added some wood paneling on the bottom just like I did on the inside. Now here you can see is where I'm going to frame out the door, and you can really see how nice this layered wall looks for this deck area. Lots of shadows in this wall. Really love how that came out. Alright, so now I can actually build the deck onto the side of the house. So for the deck, you can see I'm using 1-meter beams to make a little bit of a frame which sticks out 2 meters from the house. Then I added in some nice floor pieces, and now I'm going to fill in the handrail with 1-meter poles and 1-meter beams. And then after that, I'm actually coming back and breaking the corner 1-meter poles and changing them to 2-meter poles. This is where I'm going to build up 6 meters, where eventually the deck will connect up to the roof. Now I'm going to finalize connecting up the deck to the house by adding this 2-meter pole kind of trim going around the top here. And then I'm going to add a little detail layer with some 26-degree angle beams. These are meant to look like the rest of the window features on the walls of the house, which all have 26-degree angle peaks on the top of them. Finally, I supported the entire thing with 26-degree angle beams sticking out from the wall. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys the final part of the second floor construction, now that we're finally done with all the windows, and that is the floor. Now, the floor is pretty simple. We're just using wooden floor pieces, but I did do one thing which I highly recommend trying to use in your builds. You can see as I came to the other side, I flipped the floor piece around, and now I'm going to run the floor pieces right into each other where they slightly overlap. And now this is going to give you a really cool design from down below from the first floor. You can see also, of course, I do have to fill in these little 1x1 meter holes. I can't perfectly overlap those, but now you can see, first of all, it already looks nice from up top, but then from down below, you can see these lines, which I know is a very minimal detail, but I think overall it looks kind of nice. Alright, so now let's get started with the roof. First things first, you can see I'm adding a 1 meter by 1 meter part of the frame over here on the edge, and that's going to be intersecting with the roof that's going the opposite direction. I'll show you what I mean by that right now. So first of all, you can see I'm putting on 45-degree roof pieces, but then you can see I'm turning the corner here and adding in another roof piece. Now what I'm doing here is I'm showing you guys from down below that these roof tiles intersect perfectly in the middle of them, and what that means is that we can use corner pieces here in just a little bit once we get to that part. Alright, more on that tricky section of roof in just a little bit, but for now we're going to finish up the roof over here on the front of the house. So you can see I did 45-degree angle roof pieces into 26-degree angle roof pieces, and now I'm filling in the hole that is created by adding the roof. You can see I started with a cage wall piece, the large cage wall piece, and now I'm using 45-degree angle wall pieces to fill in this area. And then for the final opening in the wall, I'm switching to 26-degree angle wall pieces to fill in the gaps and to create a nice diamond shape inside the middle of the wall. Finally, to finish up this wall, we're going to be using a 26-degree angle X on the roof peak, and then we're going to do that again on another layer, which you can see me free placing right now. This layer is very easy. Just shift click and bring your 26-degree angle beams and 45-degree angle beams just slightly down and slightly out from the original beams. And then I decided to finish up this part of the roof here on the front of the house with some extra detail lines. Alright, next I decided to go ahead and build the entire other roof, just the shape of it, with 45-degree angle roof pieces into 26-degree angle roof pieces. And then, once we get the full shape of it up, I figured it'd be easier to then add the corners. Alright, once I got the basic shape of this roof on, I decided to add some nice trimming on the edge, of course just matching the angles of the roof tiles. Then, just like I did on the other roof, I decided to add a free-placed trimming around the edge. Alright, so now I need to add the kind of last part of the wall for this side of the house. Now you can see, I'm looking at the top of the roof there just to point out that that is where these angled walls are going to stick through the roof. So it's one of the reasons why I decided to do kind of detail lines all over the roof, because right here on this part of the roof I was going to have these lines sticking through either way. Next, you can see I'm doing exactly what I did before on the other wall, where we're going to fill in this area with a large cage piece, and then on the bottom of this wall we've got 4 45-degree angle walls, and on the top of the wall we have 4 26-degree angle walls. And they all come together to form a really nice little kind of diamond shape in the middle. Next, I went to the other side of the roof and filled in the hole in the wall with the same design. Alright, now I am finishing up this roof by adding in some nice detail lines going down each of the different roof tiles. It was a little bit easier to do this one from the inside, so that is what I did. Alright, now I can finally show you how to combine the two roofs. You can see right here that I've got two roof panels here that are touching right in the middle of them, and because they're touching right in the middle, it means that we can actually place a corner piece here. I'm breaking the two roof tiles just so you guys can see this a little bit better, but you actually don't need to break the roof tiles. I'll show you that in just a moment. Here is me putting the roof tiles back on, but now we've got a nice corner piece filling the area, making sure there are no gaps in the roof. As we come over to this side though, I can show you that you don't even have to destroy the roof tiles in this design. You can actually put the 45-degree roof corner right on top. Alright, from there we can take these corner pieces and go further up the roof. But of course now we're switching to 26-degree roof corners because the tops of both of the roofs are 26 degrees. Once you put in these corner pieces, you just want to make sure that you fill in all of the holes that are now created. And then after that, we're pretty much done with the basic shape of the roof. You can see I'm just taking this line across the very peak of the roof and connecting it up with the other roof just to make it look really nice. And then after that, what we want to do is go into the inside and actually clean it up a little bit. So we do have some roof tiles that we no longer need. You can see this middle one is very obvious, but even these two on the side I was able to get rid of without leaving any holes in the roof, and that left me with a really nice looking roof on the inside. I'm really happy. Alright, now it's time to add the final detail onto the roof. So for the final detail, you can see I decided to get rid of the 2-meter beams, which are on the peak of the roof right now, and I decided to replace that with 1-meter beams. I just felt like this would add more lines into the design and make it a little more entertaining. Then you can see every 2 meters I added a 1-meter pole, except for right here in the center where they all intersect. And then I filled in all the gaps that were created with small cage wall pieces. And then the final detail I decided to do was really quick, just fill in this side of the chimney with the same design I used. Alright, now it's time for the bridge and ocean access area. Now this area, I wanted the path to seem very old and overgrown, so you can see the path kind of snakes from the house towards the ocean, and it has a couple of open spots. And then of course over here we have some other decorations as well, including a bunch of log piles since this is the Lumberjack. Okay, now we are moving on to the tour for the lumberyard. And finally, we have the tour for the interior of the home. Alright, thank you guys very much for watching. If you want to stick around for like 10 more seconds, you can see some final cinematic shots of the entire build. More coming soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And of course, as always, have a good one.